Okay, I am now on page 506, so hopefully you have watched the visual learning video on Pearson Realize, and going to jump down to the convince me on the bottom for how can you make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So on the top of the page on the visual learning, or on the visual learning video if you watched it, they went through the problem of finding the area of the family room and the kitchen that are listed on the top of the page. So the convince me problem now says how much more, and that more is a key word there, does it cost to tile the family room floor than the kitchen floor? Show your work. And if we go back up to the top problem, it said Gwen is planning to tile the entire floor of the family room and kitchen. Tile costs $12 per square foot. What is the total cost of tiling the family room and the kitchen floors? You can make sense of the problem by answering these questions. What do you know, and what are you asked to find out? So they found the total cost for us. Now they're asking us to figure out what the difference is and how much more they're going to pay for the family room. So if the family room is 234 square feet and the kitchen is 129 square feet, and I see that keyword, how much more, so that more tells me that I need to subtract. So I'm going to start by doing 234 minus 129. I just want to know first what the difference is between the two rooms in area. So if I'm doing my subtraction, I know I have to go over to my tens place. I'm going to make it a 2. I'm going to make this a 14, 5, 0, and 1. So there is a 105 square foot difference in the two rooms. Not what they're asking us for, though. We need to find out the difference in cost. So when I go back up to the top problem, they're telling me that these tiles are $12 per square foot. So my next step, if I know that this is the difference between the two rooms, all I need to do now is times 12. That's going to tell me how much more the family room is going to cost. So 105 times 12, I know 2 times 5 is 10. That's 0 and 1. 2, put my 0 placeholder. 5, 0, and 1. And that is a 0, not a 6. So I have 0, 6, 2, 1 for a total of, remember it's money, $1,260. So again, multi-step problem. They had already done some of the work for the total cost in the top of the top problem. So this is just an extension to what they did in the visual learning. Okay, we're going to jump right away into the guided practice problem on the next page. So I'm on page 507. And then your job for today is going to be to do the independent practice. And the independent practice is only one problem, but just like we have done previously in previous topics, they are asking you to break down that problem into different questions. So they want you to answer the questions as you go along. So please make sure that you actually answer each individual question and then ultimately get the final answer. So in the guided practice, it says, a website has a daily trivia contest. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you have 1.5 hours to submit an answer. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, you have 1.25 hours. On Saturdays and Sundays, you have only 3/4 of an hour. How many hours each week do you have to submit an answer? Number 1 says, estimate the total hours each week you have to submit an answer. Write an equation to show your work. So again, first, before I do all of that, I'm going to just list my information that I know, because I always want to take my word problem and I want to put it into some kind of organized manner that I can then easily look back to it and go, oh, okay, I'm going to use this number, I'm going to use this number. So I know that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they're telling me that I have 1.5 hours to submit each of those days. On Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to use a TH for Thursday, I have 1.25 hours. And then Saturday and Sunday, I have 3/4 of an hour. So again, the first thing they want me to do is they want me to write an equation, and this time, the first time, they only want me to do an estimate. So I'm going to look at each of these days, and I know I have 3 days here, so the first part of my equation is going to be 3 times, what should I take that 1.5 and turn it into? It's bigger than 1, it's smaller than 2, but if I wanted to do an estimate, I might call it 2. So that's going to be my first portion. I'm going to put a plus sign in there because then I'm going to add my Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesday and Thursday, 2 days. I'm going to do 1.25. Because it's under that halfway point, I'm going to just call it 1. So we're going to do 2 times 1 plus, and then Saturday and Sunday, again, 2 days. And I'm going to call that 1 because 3/4 of an hour is close to 1. So my number model for my estimate is going to look like this. Remember, when I'm doing parentheses, I'm always going to do what's in the parentheses first. So let's take another color here. And I'm going to do 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 2. So my estimate is 6 plus 2, 8 plus 2, 10. So I know when I do my exact answer, my answer should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10. If you took, for example, 1.5 and called it 1, that's fine. Your estimate's just going to be slightly under, but it should still be close to the 10. When I go down to number 2, they said, write an equation using multiplication in a variable to represent the problem, and then solve the equation, and answer the question. So this time, they want me, once I did my estimate, they want me to actually solve the problem now for an exact answer, because remember, I want to go back after and say, does my answer make sense based on my estimate? So using that same information, I know that 3 days, we had 1.5 hours given to us. 2 of the days, we had 1.25 hours given to us. And 2 days, we had 3/4 of an hour. And I'll squeeze my variable in there. So my new number model looks like this. And if you look at my original number model for my estimate, they're almost identical. So everything that I have as my first number is still part of my second number model when I'm doing the exact. The only thing that's changed is my fractions went to whole numbers on my estimate. Okay, so now when I go to solve this, I'm doing 3 times 1, 3. 3 times 1/2. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. So I have 3 and 3/2, or 4 and 1/3. My second one is going to be 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1/4 is 2. Remember, if there's a little 1 down there, fourths, or 2 and 1/2. And my third one is going to be, think of that little 1 there, 2 times 3, 6, 1 times 4, 4, or 1 and 2/4. And we can simplify that down to 1 and 1/2. So the last part that I need to do now is I have okay, and I think I just made one little mistake here, so I'm going to fix that because that saves me some time. I ended up going to thirds for some reason. So I did 3 times 1 is 3, and then 3/2. For some reason, I turned that into thirds. So I went from 3/2 to 4. That should have been 1/2. So I saved myself a step because I would have had to go back and find equivalent fractions, and I didn't really need to do that. So 4.5 plus 2.5 plus 1.5. I have 4 plus 2, 6, 7. And then my fractions, a half and a half as a whole, and a half. So I have plus 1.5 for a total of 8.5. So x equals 8.5. When I'm done with that, I go back up and I say my estimate was 10. My exact answer was 8.5. Does my answer make sense? Is it reasonable based on my estimate? And my answer is yes. I intentionally left in my error here because common mistakes that we make, that's something that you have to go back, and sometimes when you look at it again, you catch those mistakes. Obviously, I've said many times before, we all make errors when we're doing whatever we're doing. It doesn't have to just be math, but you're a good mathematician if you can go back after and you can find your mistakes. So a simple mistake like that, if I didn't catch it, would have caused my answer to be completely wrong. And then I would probably go back up and say, you know what, my estimate does not match my exact answer. So again, simple mistake, but it's about you going back and catching it. That was the guided practice on page 507. Today, again, you're going to do the independent practice, and I want you really to walk through each of there's 3 questions that go along with the question. Please go through each question and really think about what they're asking you to do before you go to the final solving the problem. If you have any questions, please ask, and I will be available to help you out with them. Have a good day.